Okay, we are going to learn how to tell time from an analog clock. So, telling time is an important skill. So, we need to know if you have to plan what you're going to do and if you are going to, everything that we do, we need to see the time. So, what time do we wake up to come to school? What time do we go to bed so that we can wake up on us at a certain time? Everything is about time, right? So, it's an important skill. And in second grade, your I can statement or the standard is you will be able to tell and show time using analog clocks. I know for my third graders, it's a little bit different. You have to not only be able to tell time and show time by the hour, by the half hour. You also need to know other vocabulary, and there is a different lesson for that, which I will post. And you will also be able to tell an elapsed time. That is, you should be able to say how much time passed between how many hours or how many minutes passed between the time, for example, the time you get on the bus to the time you come to school on the bus. How long were you sitting on the bus since the bus started to move, right? So those are all, that's called elapsed time. For third graders, that's important. But for second graders, you need to be able to tell time using analog clock. Now, what's the analog clock? Do you see any difference between these two clocks? Both have numbers, but one has some needles pointing to numbers, while the other doesn't have needles. It just tells you 9:51 or 6 hours or something like that. So this an analog clock would be, um, for example, this is an analog clock because there are numbers, yes, but then there are also needles, and the needles keep moving around to show time. But now, because we are a little bit advanced in tech, I mean, we are very advanced in technology, so we are starting to use digital time. So it's easy. And I think probably nowadays you would have seen you would see more of these digital clocks. So, so this is an analog clock and this is a digital clock. So this is analog and this is digital. Digital because it shows numbers. Okay, now for the next slide, an analog clock has numbers, and this is called the face, or the numbers and the needles, and they all together is called the clock face, because that's what you're seeing. What you see is the clock's face, and then there's either a battery or some other mechanism behind the clock that makes the needles move. Okay, so we call these hands. The needles that move, we call them hands. If you look at the hands, the two black hands here, most clocks have only two black hands, but then there sometimes they also have another hand which is called a second hand. So in a most clocks have a short hand and a long hand. For example, here, um, this is the short hand, right? And this would be a long hand. So this one is a hour hand, and the long hand would be called the, I'm sorry, it's not the seconds hand, it's the minute hand. Because one, the shorthand moves very slowly so that it can show the hour, whereas minutes keep moving faster, right? So they can show you they move around faster and go much more times around the clock than the hour hand, and they are longer. So this is called an analog clock. Now, for our next, um, so I want you to watch a video here. If you click on the link, and you can listen to a story about telling time. And Now I want you to know some skills before we can tell time on analog clock. For that, I'm going to open up a new whiteboard. My laundry machine is running, so you will hear some weird noises. Um, there you go. So there are some skills I need you to know before we start. The first skill is, let's choose a thicker pencil, and yeah. So the first skill would be skip count by 5. So that's your first skill that you need to know or need to have before you can tell time. So I would suggest, let's practice skip counting. So it's skip counting by 5 would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, and so on and so forth, right? Now let's look at the second skill that we would need to know. The second skill would be, um, you need to know how many minutes in an hour and how many seconds in a minute. So 1 hour is also 60 minutes. So when the clock goes around, when the seconds hand here, um, when the seconds hand keeps goes around tick tock 60 times, then it's 1 hour. So that's what it means. So it's a 1 hour is 60 minutes. And then the second thing that you need to know, I mean, the third thing that you need to know is 1 minute is the same as 60 seconds. Maybe my third graders need to know this, but second graders just definitely need to know 1 hour is 60 minutes. So we are going to see how this works. So for example, I showed you, let's change color here. Um, for example, I showed you that a clock face has um, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, then that is 12, right? Okay. So this is our clock face. And I also told you that there is a minute hand and a hour hand. But why did we stop at 12? When we started 1, why do we stop at 12? Because one day is equal to 24 hours. Oh, that's what we needed to know. Yes, we needed to know that there. One day equals 24 hours. And we also needed to know that 24 hours, when you split 24 hours into two, there are 12 hours. So when you make a math mountain, it's 12 plus 12 makes 24, right? So 12 hours, the first 12 hours is AM, and the second 12 hours is PM. So this has 12 hours starting from midnight to noon, when we right before lunch, when we go for lunch, and again from 12 noon to all the way midnight next day, 12 a.m., it's 12 hours. So that's how it is, and then you will learn about it as we keep going. Um, so one day is 24 hours, and then AM is split into AM is 12. 12 a.m. midnight to 12 a.m. 12 p.m. 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. PM would be mostly noon, right? Next day before, like right before lunch or something. So that's 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. is one set. We call that all AM, and then PM would be in the afternoon when you eat lunch to all the way to midnight when we would probably be sleeping at that time. So that's 12 p.m. right? 12 p.m. to midnight. These are something, and how do we figure this out is because let's say you take the analog clock, right, that you have, and then you lay out the numbers like this, and you have uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12, right? So what's when your clock goes like this, it's one every hour. So let's say you start at 12 noon, right? 12 noon. We are getting ready for lunch, and then it goes to one. You start at 12 noon here, and then next hour would be 1 hour, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and so on and so forth, right? Then we come all the way up to midnight, and then we start again 1 a.m. in the morning, 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning. So that's how an analog clock works. It's only 12. We cannot put all 24 hours. It's only 12, but the hour hand goes around the clock twice to show you what time it is. Okay. Let's stop here and then we will do more. We'll do some activities and we will come back for